We are back here on the 80s at 8, and it is always just a huge pleasure whenever we can have someone that we play their music on our show. And a couple weeks ago, we played The Family's Nothing Compares to You. We've also played music from The Time, and we have a member from both of those bands. Mr. St. Paul Peterson is joining us on the show, and I'll tell you what, you hear about St. Paul Peterson, and people will tell you he's a Minnesota music legend. It is the truth. Thank you so much for joining our show today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
First off, since you are so close, have you ever played in North Dakota before? We're based out in North Dakota. Have you ever played in our area before?
I played Fargo many times with Donnie Osmond, Kenny Loggins, Peter Frampton. Trying to think of who else I would have played with there, but yeah, I'm very familiar with North Dakota, man. I know that drive. I've driven to Fargo in a snowstorm. My friend of mine went to NDSU, and my car got filled up with the snowdrift, and I had to put charcoal underneath it to thaw it out because I had to get home in order to take a flight the next day. So you guys have it worse than we do in the wintertime, I'll tell you that.
I know, it is crazy. And I'll tell you what, one thing that I find I've always been so interested in, and we do the 80 show, is the Minneapolis, I should say Twin Cities music scene in the 1980s. That's what I'm so interested in. And we actually had a guest last year, Terrence Trent D'Arby, who now goes under Sananda Maitreya. And I said, and mentioned where we were from, and he's like, I'll tell you what, if there was one time and place I could transport myself back to, it would be the 1980s music scene. Can you just tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in it? And I know you have a musical family, so what was it like to grow up in the Twin Cities in the late 70s and then early 80s?
Fascinating. Busy. There were gigs everywhere. I started gigging when I was 14 and a half in high school. There used to be bars that would have live music 7 days a week. And musicians made great money. I don't think the pay scale has gone up 1 cent since the 1980s, by the way. I mean, a lot of the music scene here is still happening now, but the payments and the appreciation for art, I don't know if it's still the same. We're certainly cranking out great musicians from here, be it Corey Wong or anybody like that. But the 80s scene was all about playing every night, writing, and then Prince came along and he took the town with him and he made so many introductions. I have so many friends through the time I spent with him. It was just amazing to be a part of that scene.
And tell me, how did you get found by Prince? And I know that was around 1983, and you were, I believe, 17. How did you get found? And tell me a little bit about that. How long had you been playing by the time that he first kind of got his eyes on you?
Oh, I played my whole life, and I was in a band with my sister Patty, and her drummer happened to be Bobby Z's first cousin. He told me about the opening in the Time that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis got fired, and he called me because I was playing with him 6 nights a week in a band, and he said, "Get down here, I got you an audition with the Time, and the rest is history."
Wow. And to me, it's so interesting that, that when you got into the Time, I mean, it seemed you just played with them one album, correct, Paul?
That's right. Yep.
And that was the album that kind of went wild for him. I mean, Ice Cream Castle had two of their biggest hits, especially in the 80s. And
absolutely.
What was it like to play on that album and be part of it right in the middle, and Purple Rain, all that kind of stuff? What was your experience like during the Time?
It was fantasy land. I mean, literally, I graduate high school. The next minute I know I'm in a double platinum band that, has hits on the radio, and I'm making a movie. You can't write a script like that, but that's exactly what happened to me. So being involved with the Time during that was a incredibly wonderful learning experience, culturally and musically. Just to kind of get, I've always played black music. My whole family loves jazz, and we are so grateful to be able to play jazz, make a living playing jazz and R&B. But to be able to be in that camp really was incredible, man. Just to see everything that Prince touched during that period turn to gold.
Any interesting stories about filming Purple Rain? I'm sure you get asked that all the time. What was that like, filming that song and that scene?
The first day was about 35 below zero, so it was cold, man.
So we can relate to us North Dakotans can relate to that first day you filmed, I'm sure.
Ooh wee, man, it was freezing. But for some reason we had to film in a warehouse that had no heat. So we, back in those days we didn't have LED lights, so we were all gathering around the film lights just to warm up and try to keep functioning, because we had to play in that stuff too. So that was during a not Vanity 6, but Apollonia 6 scene, and it was just hilarious and freezing, and we weren't nervous because we were just kind of along for the ride. I was so green that nerves weren't even an issue.
Wow. And just such an iconic movie. I'm sure you hear about people that have seen you in that movie all the time.
Well, I'm not in it that much, to be totally honest with you, but the checks keep rolling in. I get to take my bride out for dinner all the time. I mean, especially during COVID, people really watched that movie like crazy. And I was like, went to the mailbox and I'm like, holy crap, somebody's watching this movie a lot. But it was so fun to be a part of that. Such an iconic movie. Even if my part was small, which it was still great to be involved at that level.
You bet. Tell you what, we are going to play Jungle Love and the Bird.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on, man.
And question, is there any other song, from Ice Cream Castle that you would like our listeners that you personally, do you have a personal favorite outside of those two from that album?
Ice Cream Castles.
Let's do it. All three of them. Sounds good. All three of the singles. This is off of the Times album, which is called Ice Cream Castle. It's from 1984. Let's listen to them in order. We're going to have Ice Cream Castles, Jungle Love, and The Bird here on the 80s at 8, and we'll be right back here with St. Paul Peterson.
All right, man.
Man, good. That's some good music, Mr. Peterson. Does that take you back? Does hearing those songs still take you back?
It always does. But what's cool about what I'm doing today, I have a band called St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All-Stars, and we get to play those songs all the time, along with Prince songs, along with Sheila E. songs, along with family songs. And we've been touring around the country, around the world, and it's kind of we feel it's our job to continue the legacy that Prince left us now that he's no longer with us, and we play his music and the music he created with authenticity and integrity. And I've got a bunch of alumni, including Dr. Fink, Kirk Johnson, Jellybean Johnson, so many more people involved in St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All-Stars. Maybe we'll even come up to Fargo or wherever you're located up there in North Dakota.
Yeah, that is it. We are in Mayville, which is right between Fargo and Grand Forks, so it's a good location.
Oh, great. Okay. We'd love to come and see you guys.
That would be fantastic. And I'll tell you what, so if our listeners want to know what it's like, that Minnesota music scene in the 1980s, it sounds like St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All-Stars would be right up their alley.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, let's transition into the family. So once the time was done, it didn't seem like it took too long until the family was formed.
Prince called whomever was left that did not go along with Morris or Jesse Johnson, who decided to leave the band, called us into a room in the warehouse, and we were in a circle, and he pointed at me. He said, "You're going to be the next new lead singer." And his girlfriend at the time, Susanna Melvoin, was also the lead singer. So it was Eric Leeds, whom I did not know at that time, Jellybean, Jerome, Susanna, and myself. And what Prince did with these songs and what Claire Fisher, the string arranger, did with these songs made it so iconic. And I'm just so incredibly proud to have sung on that record.
I'll tell you what, it sounds like there was only one live show, correct, from the family?
That's right. Yeah, First Avenue.
I'll tell you what, I guess quick sidebar on that question. Is that a venue you played a lot growing up? Because you hear Minneapolis, you hear Twin Cities music, you think of First Avenue. Is that a venue you've played a lot?
Well, not as much as you might think. It's a pretty big room. What I would play when I was growing up, I would play smaller bars, smaller venues. That was more for touring bands and the size of, Prince at the time, the family. I recently played, I guess it wasn't that recently, but about 8 years ago with D'Angelo and Questlove. We played with him. We warmed them up a couple different times. And it's so, again, it's iconic. Prince made that place iconic. It's just a great, incredible place to play.
For sure. And I'll tell you what, the first song one of the songs we're going to play is Screams of Passion. And there's a YouTube video from your live rendition of this. And I love the song and I love the live version. Talk a little bit about the first single from the family, the Screams of Passion. It did hit the top 100. And just talk a little bit about Screams of Passion.
It's a great one chord groove or two chord groove. And the poetry on that Prince wrote is so beautiful. If you look at those lyrics, the poetry really is incredible. Claire Fisher, what he did with the string tracks to kind of make it cinematic, and the way we shot that video set the tone for that band. I hope you love it. This is Screams of Passion.
That was Screams of Passion, and I'm with St. Paul Peterson, who helped sing that song on the family. Let's talk Nothing Compares to You. I'm sure you talk about this song all the time. And strangely enough, it wasn't even a single for the family, but it is an iconic song for sure.
Nothing Compares to You is probably my favorite Prince song he ever wrote. It's simple, it's heartfelt, it's melancholy, and once again, the cinematic strings that Claire Fisher put on there and the way it's produced, how stark it is, really is heart-wrenching. And I'll never forget receiving that, sitting at my kitchen counter when I was living at Mom's house, and I would have to learn his phrasing. I'd have to learn the lyrics, obviously, the melody and his phrasing. We went in and sang that, and it used to be a full band on there. In fact, Prince put out the original demo that showed up on my porch a few years back, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And it was incredible to hear his vocal once again that I had to learn from. But Nothing Compares to You. There's so many people take ownership in that song, meaning it's almost a standard. People know that song, they record that song, they want a piece of that song because of how beautiful it is, and it touches people's soul. Sinead, Prince and I had many conversations about Sinead's version of that. I wasn't a fan because I was probably jealous more than anything else. I thought she did a great job with the production on that, and looking back, I didn't love it at first, but again, it was probably because it wasn't me on the top of the charts with Suzanne and the rest of the band. She did a beautiful job with that video. And she brought that song to the American, or the whole world, actually. And so many people have covered it since that time. It's just fun to be able to say that I sang it first. And I sing it every time I go out with St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All-Stars.
And did you know there was something special from the moment you laid eyes on it?
It was a beautiful song. You can never predict that it would be as big as it is now. But I knew it was a quality song. You just never know.
You know what's funny? The Sinead O'Connor version came on just the other day on my playlist, and it was so weird now because I'm the last 6 months I've listened to the family version so much. I kept waiting. I kept waiting for the whoa, whoa, whoa part. Come on, Sinead, where is it?
Yeah, she took those out. I don't know why, but those did not appear on her version.
I'll tell you what, but let's hear the Whoa Whoa Whoas right now. This is the last song we'll hear from the family. If you
Sing
want to
along,
introduce it, let's hear it, man.
sing along, everybody. This is Nothing Compares to You by the Family.
We're back with St. Paul Peterson, who was singing that with the family right there. Gosh, man, I don't know. There, like I said, I have just kind of come to know this version fairly recently, but
All right.
yeah, I love it. And we actually had listeners who said I'd never heard that before, but it was cool. They really liked it.
What's even crazier is that it's gonna be 40 years old in a couple of years.
Wow.
I mean, that version is gonna be 40 years old. How can I be old enough to have something that's 40 years old? It's crazy to me. And I'm so glad that you're exposing it to everybody. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for being an advocate for 80s music, especially Minneapolis and everything that I was involved in. It's such an honor to be on here, and I hope we made some new friends today. And when we come to play North Dakota, then we'll get to see you guys.
And I'll tell you what, I feel like we've really almost finished off. We've had two interviews up to this point. One with a couple weeks ago, we had Paul Robb from Information Society on the show,
Nice.
who actually said that, kind of commended your bass playing at a show that you were with him on a boat. That was kind of a cool story.
Well, yeah, I was out with Debbie Gibson and he was out with Insock. That's so funny. Good
And
guy.
then yeah, and then about last year we had Leroy Wolfgram from the Jets. So I feel like we've had great representation of the 1980s music scene on the show, and you've just done a great job just kind of telling us what that scene was like. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. It was an honor to do it. And again, we'll hopefully see you in person soon.
Excellent. Well, hey, again, if people want to know about what you're up to or what the Funk All Stars are up to, what would be the best way for them to check you guys out? Is a website, Facebook? What works the best?
Well, we're all over social media as St. Paul Peterson, or you can go to stpaulpeterson.com.
That is excellent. I'll tell you, can I have one more question from you?
Sure.
And it had a disappointing ending, but a couple now about a month ago, a couple weeks ago, you were playing you sang the Star Spangled Banner at the Minnesota Timberwolves for the playoffs. How cool was that?
That was awesome, man. That's nerve-wracking. Getting out in front of 30,000 people, praying you don't forget the words to a song you've sung your entire life. Thank goodness I've done it a couple of times, but it was so much fun. I wish I could have brought him a win, though.
I know it, but they fought till the end,
They
but
did.
but no doubt that I just can't imagine how cool that was. So again, thank you so much, St. Paul. I just appreciate your time, and thanks again, man. It was a blast.
Lots of fun. And again, I appreciate you asking me, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Sounds good.
Take care.
We'll be back here on the 80s at 8.